Hello everyone. Today's instrument is an old friend, the tambura. We're revisiting it here today and talking about it in a little bit different way. The tambura is an ancient instrument of India and is sometimes called a drone. And you'll hear this always in the background in Indian classical music. Indian classical music is divided actually into two parts. The northern part of India called Hindustani and the southern part of India called Carnatic. And the Hindustani is a little bit older. Carnatic has a different way of expressing, but they are both formed around this idea of what in Western music we call a solfeggio. Now, solfeggio sounds very complicated, but it's basically do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. My voice is not quite tuned up. I should have warmed up a little bit. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. What's missing? Do. So we start with do and we end with do. It's almost like the do is like our home note. So it's always we need to come home. Otherwise we're just left hanging out there. Well, in Indian music, in Indian classical music, they have a very similar thing. It's not called a solfeggio, it's called a sargam. And the sargam is sa, re, ga, ma, pa, ta, ni. Wait for it. Sa. So sa is very, very important. And the sa and the pa, the sa, the opening one, and the pa, the fifth note, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, they're kind of fixed notes and they have a very, very important relationship with each other. So in Indian music, when you start, and again, Indian music, I'm not talking Bollywood, talking Indian classical music, you're always going to be looking for the sa. The sa is very important. Now, there's something called fixed do, where you start with the do at the middle C, and then you go, it's always do, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But there's also movable do, where you can start do anywhere and do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So the do moves around. I know it's kind of grating, but it'll get better later on when you hear the instrument. So we always want to find the sa, and that's going to be kind of our exercise today. As we play the drone, there's 4 notes. We want to find the sa within it. Now, the sa is naturally built in. The first note is a pa. Sa, pa, sa, pa. But of course, to get to pa, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, sa, pa. So that's the idea. And again, anything that I'm talking about here may interest you. And of course, you can find lots of sources online if you want to go deeper. But for us, our use here today, one of the great feedbacks I've had from people is that they've really enjoyed the voice interaction. And to me, that's no surprise because the voice is really animating our whole being. I mean, when I'm talking, everything is really moving through my body, even just speech. And when I start singing, I can then start taking the tone up or down and through, and it can really be such a healthy thing, even just humming, for those of you who are uncomfortable vocalizing. But first of all, we'll start by moving into the sa. Remember, the first note is pa, sa, sa, sa. You'll hear that in the drone. We'll find the sa, and then perhaps we'll try and find the pa as well. And then after a while, I'll be quiet a little bit, and then for you just to practice and play around with it. And then I'm going to be moving into the hue. The hue contains all tones. So we'll just be using the drone as a background for our hue. And again, we'll tone ourselves up for that. The hue is just an ancient name for God and really, really kind of aligns, for want of a better word, or I prefer the word harmonizes our whole being, from our physical body all the way through to our spiritual nature. So we ask again for the highest and purest light from the highest and purest source to surround and fill each one of us in the space we're in at this time, for the highest good. Just let that settle in. I find that it changes the space around me immediately. So the question then is like, well, if it's so great, Paul, why aren't you doing it all the time? Good question. Good question. I really should be doing it all the time for the reasons that I'm saying. Use the light all the time, light for the highest good. Reading the newspaper, getting disturbed, send them the light for the highest good. What's the point of me being disturbed? Doesn't help anybody, doesn't help me, doesn't help anything. But sending the light really can send out a positive vibration. So at this time then, we want to send that vibration out into the world, into the people dealing with this pandemic in whatever form. Those people who are staying at home, who may not be happy right now, we send them the light for the highest good. People who are wondering where the next paycheck is coming from, and they've lost their jobs, and we send them the light for the highest good. I mean, it really gets to me. This is why I'm doing this. It really does get to me. I really need to keep sending the light and do the voice. You know, it's so interesting. As I was saying that, you know, one needs to be neutral about these things, but I really felt it in the pit of my stomach. I mean, just actually in my lower belly. So, great key for me, as we do this, I want to be vibrating that level so that I can just vibrate it out of my system, move it through. So you may be feeling stuck, or, you know, have some hurt feelings, or something's in the pit of your stomach, the lower belly. Usually like lower belly, stomach, heart, throat, those are very common places for things to get energy to get stuck. So we can use this as a way of getting to that. So light to all of that, and light to the situation and the pandemic, and it's bringing with it much and many problems, much uncertainty, but many, many gifts. And we mustn't forget that if we're listening to this right now, there's something to be grateful for, that we can see, that we can hear, that we have access to the internet, so much that we can be connected in this way. So gratitude, one of the ultimate keys. We want to open our hearts, so connect with our heart center. And again, we just ask for the highest light, the highest good as we go into this. And again, your intention is very important, your openness. Clear in your intention so that the sound can be the carrier wave of your intention into the field of grace to manifest what it is that you're wanting or wishing for your highest good. Now let's look for the sa. See if we can find the pa. Pa. Sa again. Sa. Sa. Pa. Now let's do the hue. Or the HU. You